Hello, hello, hello. Anybody there? Anybody hear me? Yay, nay. Guess my ass something. Hello. Here, we'll play a song. Let's play a song.
Living my life in the rear view and I'm haunted by my past, and sometimes I just wanna die. I need to change my ways, mama, I'm gonna try, but that's a lie, cause you heard me say that 1,000 times. I said, Lord, please help me, cause I've been living unhealthy, and the life that I've been living, Lord, can I really be forgiven for? And I don't wanna let you go. I think about you now everywhere I roll. Somewhere down the road, I lost my soul. And I know, cause it glitters doesn't mean it's gold. And I don't wanna hurt nobody. I just wanna let the truth be told. I don't wanna hurt nobody, but I'm about to lose my self-control. And they ask me how I'm feeling. I'm somewhere between Hendrix and Robin Williams. Hide behind the tears of a clown and the sound of silence. It seems so loud. Would you just look at me now when I take a shot of Crown and watch this Percocet down? Play the victim for too long to justify my habits, knowing everything I touch turns tragic. And I don't wanna let you go. I think about you now everywhere I roll. Somewhere down the road, I lost my soul. And I know, cause it glitters doesn't mean it's gold. And I don't wanna hurt nobody. I just wanna let the truth be told. I don't wanna hurt nobody, but I'm about to lose my self-control.
I guess I'm narcissistic, cause I'm trying to get it. Am I being selfish, attempting to rid my life of the drama in it? See, it was harder coming home than going in. Hard to understand that statement unless you came from where I've been. Why it's difficult to do right, but so easy to sin. Finding peace and losing to move on from chaos of the wind. That demon in the mirror still the saint that he portrays. So the songs of tomorrow borrow sorrows from today.
And I don't wanna let you go. I think about you now everywhere I roll. Somewhere down the road, I lost my soul. And I know 'cause it glitters doesn't mean it's gold. And I don't wanna hurt nobody. I just wanna let the truth be told. I don't wanna hurt nobody, but I'm about to lose my self-control. I don't wanna let you go. I think about you now everywhere I roll. Somewhere down the road, I lost my soul. And I know 'cause it glitters doesn't mean it's gold.
Customs Enforcement may reportedly release thousands of migrants and cut down its holding spaces for detainees.
These migrants are not deported. They are literally released from detention centers and prison into city streets of United States since the agency is facing a $700 million budget shortfall to hold these illegal migrants.
It's concerning indeed, especially because the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees ICE, recently confirmed a surge at the southern border.
Texas Governor Abbott wants to arrest these illegal immigrants who cross the borders unlawfully.
Biden's deliberate inaction has left Texas to fend for itself. The authors of the United States Constitution foresaw a situation when the federal government would be inattentive to states that faced challenges at their borders. And in response, they inserted Article 1, Section 10 to the United States Constitution to empower states to take action to defend themselves. And that is exactly what Texas is doing.
How many migrants could ICE end up releasing? And then what happens to those people once they're released? Are they just going to be given like a notice to appear?
The Department of Homeland Security says if it doesn't get more funding from Congress soon, migrants may have to be released from custody.
An already inflamed debate over the border risks becoming an inferno, as federal immigration officials warn they could be forced to release up to 6,000 migrants from immigration detention centers because Congress has failed to approve emergency money the Biden administration requested. A potentially landmark deal to tighten border security and pay for more border agents collapsed after Senate Republicans, former President Trump, and Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson balked that it didn't go far enough.
The American people are with us on this issue. I mean, they are with us because they understand you have to actually solve the problem.
The White House slammed Speaker Johnson in a social media post today, writing, "Roses are red, violets are blue. The border deal was crushed because of you."
Well, Congress's failure to pass a new border security bill is already having some serious consequences.
It's concerning indeed, especially because the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees ICE, recently confirmed a surge at the southern border. Of course, we have been seeing the direct impact of that surge in New York City. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement may reportedly release thousands of migrants and cut down its holding spaces for detainees. Originally reported by the Washington Post, the agency reportedly battling a $700 million budget shortfall. It's no secret the surge at the border is being felt here in New York City, the city contending with a migrant crisis, which is putting a strain on local resources, including shelters. As we reported late last year, look no further than the sidewalk outside the ICE headquarters in Manhattan to see the pressure on the New York City ICE office and the many faces from all over the world, many of them seeking asylum in the United States. But that's just one part of the complex immigration issues in the nation. Democrats and Republicans have long been at odds when it comes to border security. A national security package recently didn't pass the Senate. The budget shortfall ICE is dealing with would have been addressed by the Senate border bill that failed to gain traction last week. It would have provided billions in funding for ICE enforcement operations. In a statement, a spokesperson for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security said, in recent years, DHS has had to reprogram funding from other critical national security priorities within the department to ensure ICE and CBP can continue their operations. The fact that we are always considering options does not mean we will take action immediately or at all. There are real limits to what we can do given current funding. Opposition to the bill mounted last week, with some Republicans arguing it wouldn't do enough to actually secure the border.
Okay, in the battle over the border here, Texas wants to arrest illegal immigrants, but the question is, can the state do it? And the reason it's coming to a head, Senate Bill 4 is scheduled to take effect next month.
Senate Bill 4 is the legislation that's attracted the most headlines in Texas and across the country because it allows the state to enforce immigration. The ACLU of Texas vowed again this afternoon to take the state to court over this as soon as possible. The governor held the event at a construction site for the state's border wall in Brownsville. He also signed Senate Bill 3, which gives the state another $1.5 billion to expand the barrier in an effort to keep people from illegally crossing into the state. As for Senate Bill 4, if a person is caught entering the state away from the legal port of entry, he or she would be charged with a Class B misdemeanor and then could either choose to return to Mexico or face prosecution. Critics, including the ACLU of Texas, have said the courts have ruled only that the federal government has jurisdiction over immigration laws. The governor said today the border is a dangerous place and that the Biden administration has left the state with no choice.
The Border Patrol recently warned to take extreme caution when it learned that 10 IEDs were found just across the border. The FBI director warned that the border poses a threat to national security. Biden's deliberate inaction has left Texas to fend for itself. Since America had borders, it's all because Joe Biden allowed this entire area to be penetrated by the drug cartels that smuggled in illegal immigrants. If you see an area that is boxed off by a container that has razor wire on the container or on the ground or on the fence, those are areas that illegal immigrants were once able to cross that are now unable to cross. And the reason why we've been able to achieve that level of decrease in illegal crossings is only because of great teamwork in agencies across the state of Texas. First, an update about some numbers from the Texas Department of Public Safety. They have made over 39,000 criminal arrests. They have apprehended more than 480,000 illegal migrants. They've deterred more than 95,000 illegal entries and engaged in more than 4,300 bailouts. They have filed more than 19,000 charges for smuggling. Those charges for smuggling now face a new consequence because of members of the legislature who stand behind me. They passed a bill that I signed into law that increases the mandatory minimum time behind bars for smugglers to 10 years. If you smuggle somebody into or through and across the state of Texas illegally, you'll be spending a long time behind bars. In addition to what the Texas Department of Public Safety has been doing, we've also had unprecedented success by the Texas National Guard. They have more than 1 million encounters with illegal immigrants. They have turned back more than 90,000 people who were trying to get into the country illegally. In addition to what they're doing through other agencies and in part through what the National Guard themselves are doing, there have been more than 160 miles altogether of barriers placed up, not counting the border wall. They include the razor wire, fencing, anti-climb barriers, these Connex boxes, and the buoys that are in the river. Those together add up to more than 160 miles of barriers that have been placed up. Also, Texas is the first and only state in the history of the United States of America to build our own border wall. If you look at the amount of wall already constructed and the amount of wall that is going to be under construction, Texas will have built more of the Trump border wall than even Trump built in the state of Texas. Now, the results are amazing. If you look at what has changed with regard to illegal border crossings in the past half year or so, you see that even though Texas represents about 2/3 of the border, we represent only about 30% of the crossings. The lead crossing areas are California, Arizona, and New Mexico that represent 70% of the crossings. Now, unlike before, migrants are choosing to go to states other than Texas. And that's because Texas has put up the resistance that it has. Early on, under the Biden administration, most of the migrants were coming through Texas. That's not true. The same is true for this area that we gather in right now. If you look at this massive park area, this is an area where you would regularly see 2,000, 3,000, maybe 4,000 people crossing the border illegally. Since this park has been taken over by the National Guard, the daily average is under 10 a day. It shows that deterrence can achieve results at decreasing illegal immigration. The only reason why it's not happening is because the President of the United States is not enforcing the laws that are already on the books. He does not need more laws. He has the tools in his toolbox to do exactly what Texas is doing, and that's to deny illegal entry into the country, which he is required to do by laws already passed by Congress. Part of the teamwork that we're seeing is tremendous leadership by the Texas National Guard. To look forward about where we are going, we are working with the Texas National Guard on strategies to both add and to accommodate more National Guard in this area. We will also work with the National Guard to continue their strategies of adding more miles of razor wire and anti-climb barrier. to also recognize another branch of government in Texas that is a partner in this effort, and that's the legislative branch. The tools and strategies that DPS, the National Guard, that I and others have to do anything to secure the border would not exist if it weren't for the efforts of the members of the Texas House of Representatives. I want to have some of them speak at this time, including the chair of House Appropriations, Chairman Greg Bonnet.
Thank you, Governor. Governor, thank you for your leadership on this issue. I remember in mid-2021, the governor asked to visit with me in his office. He had already initiated Operation Lone Star. And what he shared in that visit was that the problem at the border was of a magnitude that we had never before experienced. And efforts and initiatives we had taken in the past were simply going to be insufficient. We needed a new plan, and it was going to require great resources. And since that moment, with Governor Abbott's leadership and with Speaker Thielen's leadership, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and all of the members of the House of Representatives that you see here, we have been unwavering in our commitment to step into the gap and to address a chaotic crisis where the federal government has refused to address and enforce our immigration laws. When you look at the appropriations for border security under the 4 years of the Trump administration in Texas, that was $1.6 billion. For the 4 years of the Biden presidency, Texas is appropriating $11.6 billion to do the same thing. And what we're seeing is that that deterrence does work. And the park in which you're standing right now is proof positive of where once there was chaos and several thousand people a day coming across, it has slowed to an almost non-existent number. So it can be done. When you break down the effort, about $3.1 billion goes into barriers and border infrastructure. About $200 million, because Texas has banned sanctuary cities in our state, goes to transporting illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities in other parts of the United States. And the balance is spent on the Texas Military Department and the Department of Public Safety for human resources and operations, and we thank them for the great work that they are doing. And the thing that everybody should understand is that the governor, the speaker, lieutenant governor, and all of the members who you see before you stand firmly committed that as long as there is an absence of the federal government doing its job to secure our international border, we will step up and take their place.
Thank you very much. Next is Representative Spiller.
Yes, come on. Texans know that the Biden administration has completely failed and refused to secure our border and enforce federal immigration policy. Our cries for help, our demands for help have been ignored. We've had enough in Texas. And so with my help, I carried, and we, with the group here today, passed, and with Governor Abbott's signature, passed SB 4, the strongest border security bill in the history of our state and the history of our nation. For the first time ever, we're allowed to prosecute people coming into our state illegally from a foreign nation if they cross someplace other than a lawful port of entry. It's a landmark bill that allows Texans to protect Texas, allows us to return those that arrive here illegally and to prosecute and incarcerate those that refuse to comply. And so it's completely constitutional because it's in compliance with the precedent set in the Arizona case. It's not preempted by existing federal immigration law. It's not in conflict with federal immigration law that's in place. And mostly, Texas has the right, the constitutional right and authority to secure its border. And so we're proud of that bill. The Biden administration continues to fight us. They're spending more effort to fight us than they are to secure the border. And we look forward to that fight in court. I know his Department of Justice has filed a suit to contest that. But that, I would say, bring it. We're ready for that fight. And so I would look forward to continue with the opportunity to work with this group of conservative representatives to continue to protect Texas and our country. Look forward to working with Governor Abbott and his leadership. We thank him for that and the job that he's done so that Texas leads the way to show others how we protect our state and our country.
Thank you, Representative. And now Representative Troxclair.
Every single legislator standing here represents a border district because every one of our districts is impacted by what comes across this border. Every state in our country is a border state because there is no state in the United States that is not impacted by the drugs, by the weapons, and by the humans that are trafficked across this border. American children are dying every day of fentanyl in every single state that comes across this border. Women who are being trafficked across this border are sold into sex slavery every day and trafficked through the cartel network across our country. And let me make one thing very clear. There is not a single person coming across that is free. Every single one of them is paying a very dear price to the cartel. They are paying with their money, they are paying with their bodies, and they are paying by being sold into indentured servitude. And President Biden is not just supporting it, he is encouraging it. Instead of protecting Americans, he is protecting the cartels. They are making more money off of his failure at the border than they ever have before. And Governor Abbott and the Texas legislature are stepping into that gap. And let me tell you, we will not give up. Texans are no stranger to being put under pressure, to having to stand up for what we believe in. And this is our moment. Governor Abbott is supported by Republican governors from across this country, many of whom are sending troops here to help us. The real heroes are the DPS officers and the Texas National Guard, who are serving every day away from their families to make sure that Texans and every American are safe. And the legislators behind me are ready to give the governor the tools and the resources and the funding that he needs to keep this fight going. This is the number one issue, not just to my district, not just to this state, but to Americans across the country. And so to every American out there, Texas has your back. Governor Abbott has your back. And Governor Abbott is doing the job that President Biden refuses to do. And we will never give up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And a big thank you to all these members of the Texas legislature. Texas would not be in a position to do what we're doing without them and the laws they pass, the efforts they've undertaken. And so I thank all of you all very much for what you've done, for being here, and what we will continue to do. With that, we'll take a few questions.
The president who was sent, he talked about an announcement. What was the announcement? Have we already heard that announcement, or is there something else that you would like to add to an importance of being here with all of you?
Well, for one, the importance of the people who join me today is that the fact is the wire that you see preventing illegal entry, the Connex boxes that you see, the soldiers that you see, the Texas Department of Public Safety that you see, none of that would be here but for the people who stand with me today. As far as future announcements, listen, we being my office, we're working with the Texas National Guard on strategies to make sure that we're going to find ways that we will be able to both add and accommodate more soldiers being deployed in this area. And more details will be provided in the future. So let's be clear about two things. One is I've attempted that. I have provided 8 letters to President Biden and his administration asking for certain actions. I've received exactly 0 response. One of those letters I handed to him personally, to his hand. It was a single page. It was not complicated, and explained exactly what needed to be done in order to secure the border. At that same meeting, I handed the exact same letter to Secretary Mayorkas, who said that he would work with us. And of course, he has not. So the Biden administration has done nothing to work with us, despite me reaching out on 8 different times. That said, there is a key factor that we insist on, and that is the beginning of our discussions starts with the enforcement of the rule of law. There are laws on the books as we speak right now that don't need to be added, that don't need to be changed, that do 2 things. It denies illegal entry into the United States of America, and it requires the president, the executive branch, to detain them if they do get in illegally. Those 2 laws are not being followed. Negotiations begin once the Biden administration starts enforcing the laws. So yes, we are working on expansion plans to expand the successful operations that we've seen in certain locations that deter illegal immigration. And some of those will be announced after they occur. Others will be announced beforehand. But just know this, and that is the National Guard is relentless. On a daily basis, they're adding more razor wire barrier, more anti-climb barrier, more other ways to repel people from trying to enter illegally. And I got to emphasize this, and that is in doing so, there's actually been a dramatic reduction in drownings in the river by more than 50%. If people are enticed to cross a treacherous river, they will cross that river and some will lose their lives. One thing we know for a fact, right behind you is a bridge that people are walking across as we speak. No one drowns on a bridge. No one gets cut by razor wire on a bridge. If people tried to enter the country through the pathway created by Congress as the pathway into the country, lives would be saved.
And with the Biden administration right now is weighing the decision whether to pursue legal action regarding the operations here in Shelby Park. Whether the Biden administration pursues a legal action, would that affect the decision made by the...
So I actually hope the Biden administration takes legal action about this area, because I want to make one thing perfectly clear. One reason why this area is occupied by the state of Texas is to prevent the Biden administration from any further violation of federal law on this Texas land. They are violating 2 laws required by Congress. Congress requires the federal government to deny illegal entry. The Biden administration used this park to aid illegal entry into our country. And then secondly, you saw the masses, the thousands that they allowed together in this park for processing and then to be sent elsewhere in the United States. That's mass parole. Congress has specifically prohibited mass parole into the United States. What Texas is doing right now is we are the ones actually enforcing laws passed by Congress. Biden is breaking those laws. And we look forward to our day in court where we are able to tell America the way that Joe Biden is violating the laws that are on the books by Congress right now. So in that gang in particular, I don't have information about that. And I know that DPS would be able to get you that answer specifically. However, I do want to tell you this. We know that DPS is arresting dangerous gang members all the time, including they arrested a MS-13 gang member who was on the terrorist watch list. And we know that there are terrorists and people on the terrorist watch list who seek to cross the border all the time. Under Joe Biden's tenure, there's been an all-time record number of people on the terrorist watch list who were apprehended. But here's the key fact. If you're on the terrorist watch list, they're going to pay extra money to the cartels to not be apprehended. What Joe Biden does not know, what the FBI does not know, is the number of people on the terrorist watch list who were able to evade detection, enter the United States illegally, and are moving around the country with the potential to cause catastrophic harm. So the next steps is to, I'm working with the National Guard on plans as we speak right now to expand the National Guard effort along the border region. We're going to work on strategies to ensure the capabilities of the National Guard to add more soldiers, more resources, more capabilities, so they can be even more successful. Of America, what he said, but it's not a one-off threat. We see things like that happen every single day. So, Maria, my hope is that the United States Supreme Court and courts across the country, they see exactly what's happening on our border. It's not what happened under Bush or under Trump or under Obama. This is something completely different that has never happened before in the history of the country. Trump put in place 4 policies that led to a secure border. And when Biden came into office, he eliminated those 4 policies. We can have a president that will impose a secure. Listen, the growth in India is faster than any other large country in the entire world, and we're seeing it firsthand. And Texas already has established extensive trade relationships with the largest businesses in India. So I'm so happy that a video surfaced because there's an argument that we've made at the United States Supreme Court because we have 1 or 2 cases in the Supreme Court as we speak right now against the Biden administration about illegal immigration. And as the court weighs and considers our defense against the Biden lawsuit, they have to consider whether or not there is an invasion going on. I have asserted in court that there is an invasion going on in the United States of America, and that videotape typifies why there is such an invasion. That is a threat to the United States of America, what he said, but it's not a one-off threat. We see things like that happen every single day. So, Maria, my hope is that the United States Supreme Court and courts across the country, they see exactly what's happening on our border. It's not what happened under Bush or under Trump or under Obama. This is something completely different that has never happened before in the history of the country. This is an invasion by people we don't know who they are, where they're coming from, or the danger they may pose. And so it's right for Texas to have taken the steps that we have taken to crack down on the illegal crossings, to declare an invasion, and use every tool we can to do the job that Biden is not doing, and that's to try to deny illegal entry into our country.
I also want to thank Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones and Speaker John Burns for being with us today. Our constitutional officers, I'm not going to name all of them because I think we have all of them with us today. I certainly want to thank the leadership in the House and Senate from the Republican majority caucuses that are here with us today. Just cannot thank the General Assembly enough for their support in this effort, but also a lot of other things that.
Listen, the growth in India is faster than any other large country in the entire world, and we're seeing it firsthand. And Texas already has established extensive trade relationships with the largest businesses in India. Today, I visited with leaders of Reliance, which is the #1 largest business in India. I met with leaders of Infosys, with Tata, with Wipro, all of which are in the top 25 largest businesses, and they have their largest operations in the United States or in the state of Texas. So we're here making sure that with those already doing business in Texas, that they will continue to expand that. With those that are not yet doing business in Texas, we're explaining why Texas has repeatedly been ranked the #1 state for doing business and the #1 state for economic development projects, and why we have no income tax, a reasonable regulatory environment. We make it easy for businesses to start and grow. And with India growing the way that it is, it's going to be a robust trade partner for years to come.
These men and women have served our state with distinction in so many ways, just over decades in our state, but certainly for my time in office with the COVID response, civil unrest, their service in country and certainly around the world has been just incredible. And we cannot thank you all enough, but also just want to thank your families back home that are supporting what you do every day. So we're grateful for that. Today, we reinforce our commitment to keeping Georgians safe We're also joined by just a great man, someone who has led our state with distinction, Major General Tom Cardin of the Georgia National Guard. Thank you, General, for your service and for your folks. Director Chris Stallings of the Georgia Emergency Management.
So yeah, the answer is yes, Maria, but remember this, and that is in the aftermath of both COVID, as well as the hostilities from China, there's nearshoring, which is what we see in Mexico. There's friendshoring, which is what we see in India. There are a lot of movement by a lot of businesses that have been doing business in China, moving operations to locations like India, and Texas will be tapping into those operations, making deals so that as India grows, so will Texas.
Yeah. From San Diego, our News Nation cameras actually captured a moment where a smuggler used a rope to scale the border wall and actually smuggle 5 migrants from Guatemala. The smuggler could also been seen taking out his phone to take a photo of the migrants once they have been successfully smuggled into the U.S. And with no Border Patrol agents nearby, the family walks right into the U.S. undetected. But Border Patrol agents on the California border might be getting help soon, as Mexican officials have set up a command post at a popular crossing point for migrants. Mexican military can be seen patrolling this area of the border, where usually smugglers drive right up to the border wall and guide migrants through the open gap. News Nation was on the ground in Eagle Pass, Texas earlier this month and witnessed an increased presence of Mexican military on the banks of the Rio Grande. Now, this is the first time we've ever seen Mexican military on the border in Uncumba actively stopping migrants from crossing illegally. We have an exclusive ride along with the Mexican military later today to learn about their new operations on the border. Stay tuned for our report. Good morning, Marcus. So Border Patrol agents here in California and San Diego on the border are seeing a spike in illegal crossings. Actually, the first week of the month, Border Patrol agents apprehended over 8,000 migrants from 70 different countries. Now, majority of the migrants who are crossing illegally are entering through open gaps in the border wall in Jacuma Hot Springs. It's a remote area about 60 miles away.
If you think this is just about politics, then listen to these numbers, because numbers do not lie. 8.5 million illegal immigrants have crossed the border since Joe Biden took office. The Border Patrol arrested almost 250,000 people crossing the southern border in December alone, a new all-time high, up 13% from the previous record. 169 people on the FBI terror watch list were encountered at the southern border in fiscal year 2023 alone. This is an all-time high record.
Laredo's down 42%, RGV down 18%. Meanwhile, we're seeing that all those people are going to Arizona and California. We see huge spikes there. They're shouldering about 60% of the migrant encounters nowadays.
And beyond the humanitarian and public safety concerns, the data reveals just how economically harmful this crisis has been. According to one report I've seen, illegal immigration is costing Georgia taxpayers over $2.2 billion each year. And as the federal government continues to pour billions into cities and communities struggling to handle this influx, if just for a fraction of those funds went to border security, we wouldn't be dealing with this issue. I don't believe that the American people will stand for this. The people of Georgia will not stand for this. And the Georgia House will not stand for the lawlessness and chaos going on at our southern border any longer. That's why today, the House was proud to pass House Resolution 1019. Two of my colleagues, one was a sponsor, one was a huge supporter.
We will send reinforcements to Texas this spring who will assist with the construction of a forward command post on the border with Mexico. This group of well-trained soldiers will include those with engineering, mechanical, and general purpose skills. Their contributions will be outlined by the official request made by the Texas Guard to our own Guard and to Director Stallings at GEMA. So I want to again thank General Cardin and Director Stallings again for their leadership and their good work in helping us prepare for this deployment.
Chairman Stephen Sains, the sponsor. My dear friend, Chairman Rick Jaspers, was a huge supporter. House Resolution 1019 affirms our support for the state of Georgia and for Governor Kemp to engage in this crisis, send support and resources to Texas to help stop this massive flow of illegal immigration into our country. Governor Kemp, we've got your back. And under your leadership and with the support of the Georgia House and Senate, our state will continue to stand strong against illegal immigration and for legal immigration in this state and this country. Governor Kemp, I return the podium to you.
Well, thank you, Speaker. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Jones, or members of the General Assembly that are with us. And again, thank you to Director Stallings, General Cardin, and our men and women, our National Guard. We'll open it up for a few questions.
Thursday over Senate Bill 4. That's the novel new law that gives Texas broad authority to enforce federal immigration law on our own. This is very controversial because federal immigration law is just that, federal law, and state troopers, local police have no right or business to enforce it themselves. That's what the federal government is arguing.
But also the right of states to defend themselves against threats when an administration in Washington is unwilling to step up and lead. After years of warnings from Republican governors like me across the country, and after record-breaking numbers of illegal crossings at the border and seizures of dangerous drugs, weapons, and violent criminals, no one can claim there is not a crisis at our southern border. And thanks to the failures of the White House, now every state in the country is a border state. Last year, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation was involved in 91 cases that included seizures of fentanyl. That's up 51% from prior year's numbers. Those figures don't include all the local law enforcement seizures of this dangerous drug. I've been speaking out on this issue for a long time, since before I took office and long before other people discovered it was an issue worth talking about. That's why we've had continuous Georgia Guard presence on the border since 2019, the longest of any state. And it's why I was proud to stand alongside fellow governors not long ago in Eagle Pass, Texas, and reaffirm Georgia's commitment to helping secure our border when Joe Biden fails to act. To be clear, the crisis on the border is a national problem, and it demands a national solution. But if the Biden administration continues to fail the American people, then we have no choice but to step in. Therefore, I'm announcing today that in addition to the Georgia Guardsmen already stationed at the border, let me close by saying that this is not a partisan issue. You heard the numbers for yourself. This is a public safety and a humanitarian crisis caused by Joe Biden's failure to act. The crisis is ruining lives, families, and whole communities overrun by the challenges it brings. Well, while Joe Biden may not be willing to act, we will. I'll now turn it over to one of our partners in this effort, our Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. Governor.
Numbers down across every state, but especially in Texas. There's really eye-popping numbers in the Del Rio sector. That's what you're looking at right there. This is the Eagle Pass area.
I also want to recognize and thank the proud members of the Georgia National Guard who are with us today. Thank y'all for your service.
That has become the center of Operation Lone Star. And we see that in December, Eagle Pass Border Patrol agents were encountering about 2,300 migrants a day.
We're working on, and one of those is our shared commitment to protecting Georgians from the disastrous effects of Joe Biden's failure to secure the U.S. southern border.
But this would give Texas troopers the ability to arrest and effectively deport any migrants that come into Texas without having to deal with Border Patrol at all. Governor Abbott says we need to do that because Border Patrol is not doing their job. Last month, that was down to just as low as 200 sometimes. El Paso is also down 51% in the last 3 months of last year compared to the same period in 2022.
And as a result of the Texas Operation Lone Star efforts, they have seized 56,000 pounds of meth, over 458 million doses of fentanyl, and over $51 million in illegal currency. But they can only do so much in absence of any meaningful federal support. So the drugs, the gang members, and the human traffickers, they don't catch are headed to other states just like ours. And Homeland Security Agency and General Cardin and Director Stallings have done a lot of great work on behalf of our state. And I just want to thank both of you guys for your response in a lot of different ways over the last 5 years. Yeah, it's probably going to be, we got 29 people down there now. We're thinking that it'll be somewhere between 15 and 20 for what they're asking for. So obviously it's not going to be a huge cost for us. But look, we are responding directly to what Texas is asking us for, and that's what Director Stallings and General Cardin will be working on. We'll get that request in writing and be ready to respond. I will say there is a lot of states that are stepping up, a lot of Republican governors that are stepping up to offer assistance because they, like me, believe that we just have to do this when we have a president that will not act.
December to January, we saw about 300,000 migrant encounters in December. That dropped to just 176 in January. So,
okay, so after seeing record migration, though, Ryan, why are we seeing this steep drop?
Migrant tells journalists, soon you are going to know who I am. As Texas shores are broader, California sees more migrant crossing. As Texas fortifies its borders, there is notable decline in migrant crossing. However, data reveals a migrant shift towards Arizona and California. San Diego's chief patrol agent reports over 8,000 apprehended migrants from 70 countries between January 31st and February 6th, with many utilizing gaps in the border wall in Jacumba Hot Springs, 60 miles from San Diego. News Nation captured the smugglers aiding a family over a wall in Jacumba, highlighting the challenges faced by Border Patrol. With the reduced border and patrol presence, migrants exploited vulnerabilities. Mexican officials are establishing a command post at a popular crossing point, suggesting increased collaborations to address border challenges. New Nation's upcoming ride along with the Mexican military aims to explore their operations on the Jacumba border.
Meanwhile, the White House and the Pentagon are urging the House to move quickly in passing the Senate's $95 billion foreign aid package. This legislation includes more than $60 billion for Ukraine, $14 billion in security assistance for Israel, and nearly $5 billion for the Indo-Pacific region, which is what we want to get into right now. House Speaker Mike Johnson, however, is warning that it will not be getting a vote in the chamber in the current form. Here's what Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh had to say about that yesterday. Watch.
If we don't get this supplemental from the House, that means no more PDA packages for Ukraine, no more USAI packages and authorities for Ukraine. And of course, that puts at risk also what we're able to do in the Indo-Pacific. So our allies and our adversaries are watching to see whether the U.S. will continue to stand with Ukraine, to stand with Taiwan, to stand with Israel.
And how about the wide open border and its implications? Joining me right now is the Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow, author of The Coming Collapse of China and China is Going to War. Gordon Chang back with me this morning. Gordon, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And I know you want to really get into specifically that money going to the Indo-Pacific. Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, there are 3 compact states. The United States has a financial obligation to fund these compacts. This is Palau, Marshall Islands, Micronesia. These islands control Pacific. If China gets them, and China's really trying very hard, because it's saying to people in the islands, the U.S. is not funding its obligations, therefore you should ditch the U.S., go to China. That means China would have naval bases close to Hawaii, and that means we would not be able to get across the Pacific to Asia without encountering the Chinese.
So what you're saying is, look, the money should go, this supplemental package is important, particularly to ward off the dominance that we continue to see from communist China.
Right. And these compact states, it's $2.4 billion over 20 years. But the other issue, of course, is the border, as you've talked about, because across that border, we are seeing Chinese soldiers come across. And really what we're talking about is China putting together the infrastructure in the U.S. to attack the U.S. So clearly we've got to secure that border or we're going to be fighting on our own soil.
Well, it's just incredible to me that this administration refuses to acknowledge all these Chinese nationals that are coming through the border. They're creating a little mini army. And I'm wondering what the point is here. Are they trying to put people in place, I'm talking about communist China, so that when and if Donald Trump wins, they can create havoc in the streets and become saboteurs, starting wildfires and propaganda?
Absolutely. That lab in Reedley, California, the secret Chinese biological weapons facility, that can't be the only one that China has. And then you put together these images of recent Chinese migrants coming into the U.S. less than 3 weeks, taking target practice with sniper rifles and pistols. So really what we have here is the makings of a Chinese army, not in China, but in the United States itself. And the Biden administration is not tracking these people.
This is incredibly disturbing. And you said, Target, I know you just wrote a piece on this. If you are running from persecution, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have a place to live and you want to be safe. You're not exactly going to go pick up a rifle and start doing target practice, are you?
No, and we're hearing over the last week when we talked about this last, there are more and more reports of Chinese taking target practice in the U.S. So it's not just the ones that we saw in those images, it's also in Idaho.
It's unbelievable. The Wall Street Journal is out with a report titled China's Shipyards Are Ready for a Protracted War. America's aren't. They write this: while Chinese shipyards are thriving and primed to build at wartime rates, U.S. shipbuilding is in disarray. According to this report, Chinese military planners have leveraged the nation's shipbuilding empire to build up the world's largest navy. I've talked about this with General Jack Keane many times, who told me we are, bottom line, outgunned when it comes to the Navy in the U.S. versus the Chinese Navy.
Clearly, China has more ships than we do. You know, we say our ships are more capable, as the chief of naval operations said yesterday. But the point is, you know, when you have a lot of quantity, you can overwhelm quality. And really, this is a problem that's been decades in the making. But Biden doesn't seem to care about it because there is no push to really build American ships. You know, it's not just commercial ships, it's Navy ships as well. This is a problem because the Chinese can build ships like 300 times faster than we can.
Well, thank you all for coming today to discuss this important amicus brief that I filed along with 44 other members of Congress and all 25 members of the Republican Texas delegation. And we did so in support of our governor and our state elected leaders, as well as our fellow Texans back home. Not only is this president and secretary failing to provide for a common defense and willfully disregarding the laws of the land, they are obstructing our state's effort to protect our citizens and defend our border. Our state leaders have taken a number of measures to defend our border and our citizens over the years since this administration's open border policies and lawlessness and chaos have ensued at our southern border. Operation Lone Star, marshaling our law enforcement from across the state and our National Guard, the deployment of razor wire fencing and buoy barriers, the construction of a state border wall, and now the issue, central legal issue, is that which is involved in Senate Bill 4, which makes it illegal to cross into Texas, makes it a state crime to do so, and people who do perpetrate that crime are subject to apprehension, detention, and or deportation. Now, the Department of Justice is suing the state of Texas on the legal basis that immigration is a sole responsibility of the federal government. However, Texas is making a very different argument on the constitutional basis that A, the federal government has failed to protect, as it says in the Constitution, each and every state from an invasion. That's Article 4, Section 4. And B, that this actual invasion is happening in Texas and is causing imminent danger and putting our citizens at risk. The Constitution is clear and unequivocal. If a state has actually been invaded, or there is imminent danger such that will not permit delay, to use the words of the Constitution, every state has the inherent and sovereign right of self-defense. Two things that are important for people here in Washington to understand about Texans, and I think my fellow Texans will back me up on this. Two very important things. One, Texans will not play passive victim to a failed federal government. And secondly, Texans will not ask permission from a derelict commander-in-chief or a Secretary of Homeland Security who refuses to enforce the law in order for us to defend our border and protect our people. Yesterday, the House impeached Alejandro Mayorkas for his dereliction of duty, for his breach of public trust, and the systemic and serious harm it has caused our society. Regardless of what happens in the Senate, I believe that a conviction is coming in November, not only for Secretary Mayorkas, but for our Commander-in-Chief and his entire chain of command. And with that, I would yield to our Border Caucus Chair and my dear friend from the southeastern region of Texas, Texas 36, Brian Babbitt.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Jody. I'm proud to be up here, and your initiative is so very badly needed for our country to rally around our great state, the Lone Star State. So we're here to support Texas's Senate Bill 4, a common sense piece of legislation that rightfully criminalizes illegal entry and re-entry and sends those who come here unlawfully right back across the border. As we heard my friend Jody Arrington say, we have a derelict administration. Texas has to protect ourselves and our citizens. Let's be clear, when states like Texas joined the union, they did not give away their right to self-defense. The federal government merely took on that responsibility until this administration took the reins. Thankfully, however, our founders had enough foresight to ensure that the Constitution explicitly guarantees states the right to defend themselves from an invasion, an especially critical guarantee in the wake of a federal government refusing to fulfill its obligation to do so. Since creating the border crisis by purposefully dismantling Donald Trump's policies that were working to keep our borders secure and our nation safe, Joe Biden has utterly abandoned our states to their own devices. We're being invaded without question, and this negligent administration left a massive void. Fortunately, Texas has stepped in to fill that gap. Clearly, our elderly president with a poor memory, his border czar who is MIA, and his newly impeached Homeland Security Secretary do not care if our southern border exists, or since they have done absolutely everything in their power to leave it wide open and ensure its erasure. But Texas, the Lone Star State, I'm proud to be from Texas's 36th district. It cares about the preservation of our nation, and it will not stand idly by and watch while America simply vanishes. The actions that the Lone Star State has taken to secure the southern border are absolutely just and vital to protect Texans, Americans, and American sovereignty. I support this amicus brief without any hesitation whatsoever, just as I will continue to support the great state of Texas. Thank you very much.
We'll now turn the podium over to our friend, former Navy SEAL, chairman of the Drug Cartel Task Force, representing Texas too, Dan Crenshaw.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Jody, for putting this together. And thank you to our governor for taking action. This is something we've been talking about for a long time. Our governor is a careful man. He is a lawyer, and he put a lot of thought into this. And this isn't an issue of politics. This is an issue of sovereignty. This is an issue of what's fair to legal migrants who do it the right way. This is an issue of safety with respect to the drug cartels that control the entirety of the southern border. If anybody's to say that they have operational control of the border, they'd be lying, unless they're the drug cartels. They do have operational control, and they make tens of billions a year from charging people across that border and bringing people to that border. That's what this is about. This isn't about politics. This is about Texas having to do the job of the federal government, and I think having the legal right to do so. You know, Texans are being taxed twice. They're taxed twice because we have to pay for all of our operations on the border, and we also pay federal taxes. I've introduced legislation to pay Texas back for that, called the Border State Reimbursement Act. But it's also worth noting that people come up to podiums up in this office and they say all the time that every state's a border state. Every state is not a border state. Texas is a border state. And we're the state that actually puts the most resources toward trying to solve the problem. And that's what this is about. This is about solving the problem. So instead of suing the state of Texas, the federal government should be paying back and thanking the state of Texas. So I'm glad to be here with my colleagues, to be up here and support our governor in those actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next, the first female mayor from Irving, Texas, and my fellow colleague on Ways and Means, Beth Van Dyne, representing Texas 24.
Thank you very much. From day one, through purposeful and persistent actions, the Biden administration has shredded meaningful and effective Trump-era border policies that were actually working. And rather than having nominal control and far less illegal immigration, they've created a national security and humanitarian nightmare. By turning over control of our southern border to the Mexican cartels, Biden has ushered in a new era of mass illegal immigration that is overwhelming states, cities, and services for the American people. Biden's reckless and destructive administration has not just simply abdicated their federal responsibility to protect our border and the people of Texas, but they have deliberately caused what the American people justifiably see as an invasion, which has delivered deadly consequences. More than 1,100 North Texans have died from fentanyl poisoning since Biden took office. Fentanyl-related deaths have increased by 33% since 2019 and now account for almost half of all drug-related deaths, killing an average of 5 Texans per day. In Tarrant County, the sheriff's office saw a 1,000% increase in the amount of drugs seized in a short 2-year span. In 2020, they seized $3 million worth of drugs. In 2022, it was $35 million. I'm proud of the state of Texas and Governor Abbott for taking the mantle of leadership to fight the Biden border invasion with every resource and constitutional authority they have. As we rightfully noted in this amicus brief, Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution ensures states have the ability to defend themselves in the absence of the federal government and when a real and imminent threat is presented. Sadly, we aren't seeing an absence of the federal government, but with Biden and Mayorkas, the federal government is actively working to support, fund, and facilitate not just this invasion, but the operations of Mexican cartels who are wholesale killing and enslaving people all across our country. By the actions Texas is taking to construct barriers, deter illegal crossings along our border, and making it more difficult for the Mexican cartel's human trafficking programs, illegal immigrant encounters have dropped significantly in many sections of the Texas border, by nearly 76% from December to January. Texas has once again shown the federal government is lying to the American people when Biden claims that there's nothing that can be done under existing authority to stop his engineered invasion. The American people stand with Texas in our fight to protect our state and the union. We clearly stand with Texas in this ongoing and existential fight, and we urge the Supreme Court to recognize Texas is acting lawfully and responsibly to do the job that this administration refuses to do. Thank you for being here today and for covering this national security.
Thank you, Beth. Now, federalism, the sovereignty of states, and every state's inherent right of self-defense is not just a Texas issue. It's an issue for every state in the union, including South Carolina. So to prove this isn't just the Kool-Aid we drink at our Texas lunches, we've asked our honorary Texan, David Rouser from South Carolina, to say a few words.
Carolina.
Well, the Carolinas.
Whatever, Texas
The
is invading
Carolinas.
both.
It really doesn't matter. And Jody and I have known each other a long time, and I can understand how you might get confused with South Carolina and North Carolina. But I was thinking while my colleagues were speaking, I said some of my constituents in North Carolina are going to be a little worried I might have moved to Texas. Of course, then I thought, well, there's
You and everybody else.
then I thought, well, there's some folks in my district that would be glad if I moved to Texas, probably. So, but it's a real honor to stand with these fine colleagues from Texas. They are a border state. It is really astonishing that this administration has totally, completely abdicated its responsibility in protecting our border, not just Texas, but Arizona and everywhere else. Now, it's technically true North Carolina is not a border state, but I can tell you this, we have the drugs pouring in a big way, much more so than during the previous administration. And we all know what took place with the Biden administration. They repealed every single policy that President Trump had in place to secure the border. There's really no need to pass new law in terms of border enforcement. This president has every authority under current law to enforce the border. And that point needs to be made repeatedly, I think. This is a national crisis. Texas is at the forefront. They're the tip of the spear. And so I'm proud to support my friends from Texas in their effort by signing on to this amicus brief, and really truly hope that the Supreme Court will give ample consideration to the necessity of this suit. It's critically important, I think, moving forward for the country, and not just for Texas, but for the entire country in terms of our national security. With that, I'll yield back.
I think the gentleman from North Carolina, it could have been worse. I could have said he hailed from California or Massachusetts. With that, if there are any questions, we're happy to entertain them. Yes, sir.
Actually, I have two questions.
Uh-huh.
The first one is, I assume you've talked with your Texas Democratic colleagues about this brief, but I don't see any of them up here joining.
I think our Democrat colleagues from Texas are well aware of the efforts that our leaders in Texas have deployed to fill the gap, to hold the line, and to do the job the federal government under this administration has failed to do. They're also aware that this administration has resorted to these far afield arguments like the 1800s Harbor and Rivers Act, and directing the Department of Interior to claim the Mexican mussel as critical habitat. I mean, it's obvious the extent and the extremes that this administration will go, not only to not do their job, but to prevent Texas from doing the job for them in protecting their citizens. So I can't explain or I won't give the excuse why Democrats are up here. I'll let you ask them. But this isn't a partisan issue. It's an issue, again, as Dan said, it's not political. It's about our sovereignty, and it's about the inherent right of all states to defend themselves, as our forefathers wrote into that Constitution when the danger is so imminent and threatening to the citizenry that it shall not permit delay. Then it would be irresponsible for our state leaders not to do what they're doing. Problem is they are being harassed and obstructed at every turn. And we hope this central question, though, of state sovereign right of self-defense, we believe it will be meted out and probably ultimately at the Supreme Court. And that's why this amicus brief is so important. I'm going to go to her and then come back to you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. A couple of things just to clarify processes. Repeatedly, Republicans have stated that President Biden could have used some sort of presidential power to make decisions on closing the border. Can you elaborate on specifically what it is he could be doing that he isn't?
Well, he has broad authority in an emergency or crisis to turn any and every person in this country who crosses the border illegally, turn them back to their country of origin for any reason. That is the broadest authority that the president has. But really, all you have to do is look at the previous administration and you will see the stark contrast. The same laws and policies that are on the books today were on the books then, except you had a president in Donald Trump who was willing to use the tools and authority to stop the flow and secure the border. And that's why we saw a significant drop. I think it was over 70% in the terms of the flow of illegal immigrants. And he and the Trump administration effectively secured the border. And obviously you're familiar with Remain in Mexico. The law says shall detain when someone has crossed illegally. They get a court date, they get due process to see if they have credible asylum claims, but the law says shall detain. And even with criminal aliens, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, had blanket broad direction under the guise of prosecutorial discretion to say that we will not detain even criminal aliens. So sure, there are ways to improve the legal process. Certainly there are loopholes that need to be closed and magnets that need to be turned off that incentivize the flow of illegal immigration. But the authorities are there, and it is nothing but political cover and an excuse to suggest otherwise. And by the way, this president and Secretary Mayorkas has said for the last 3 years that the border is under our control and that the border is secure and that it's not a crisis, until it was politically convenient when you had a Senate bill that was portraying itself as a border security bill, and then he changed his tone.
Follow up. How far-reaching should the power of a governor, such as Governor Abbott, be in securing the territory that they are?
It's a great question.
And I'm asking you that because I have a source in Texas who has stated that Governor Abbott is getting support from the National Guard from other states. Can you clarify if that is what's happening? And then also to the question of how far-reaching any governor's power should be, if you could elaborate on that.
Well, unlike just legal precedent, this is the plain language of the Constitution. And I'm not a lawyer, but it is clear and unequivocal that when there is an actual invasion or, and these are the words of the Constitution in Article 1, Section 10, an actual invasion or imminent danger such that will not permit delay, the states have that right of self-defense. Now, I'm sure there are various contours to that discussion that the courts will take up, but this isn't something that is being divined by state leaders in Texas. This is the plain language of the Constitution. The arguments in the past, for example, U.S. v. Arizona, the last time an immigration case went to the Supreme Court, a seminal question was asked: can a state enforce federal laws if the federal government is not? Now, the conservative jurist said that they could, but it was a more liberal court, and they struck down Arizona's claim that they could do that. They said that the federal government has sole jurisdiction over enforcing immigration laws. That's not what Governor Abbott and the leaders of Texas are arguing. They're arguing that Article 4, Section 4, the guarantee clause, guaranteeing protection against invasion, the feds have failed in that. And then Article 110, that there is an actual invasion and there's imminent threat. So the state of Texas has the broadest latitude to do what it needs to do with the tools and authorities and resources they have. By the way, they've been doing this to the tune of billions of dollars for the last 3 years. As I mentioned, Operation Lone Star, the razor wire, the border wall, the buoy barriers. But this question will be central to state sovereignty, federalism, not just in Texas, but across the land. Yes, sir.
Do you have a reaction to the White House refusing to meet with Speaker Johnson? And should they meet, Speaker Johnson try to continue meeting with the White House? And if so, is this something that could be negotiated if in fact Johnson could come to a border agreement with the White House?
I think it's worrisome that the President of the United States is not sitting down with the leader of the House to discuss funding the government and the policies and direction of our country, especially as it relates to the most imminent threat to our security and to the safety of our citizens, which is the border crisis that his administration and he have created. I suspect, and there's been a lot of discussion about his cognitive challenges and his mental health state, that they may be protecting him from engaging and further disclosing those challenges. But that's just what I surmise because of what I read. But it's a problem when the issues of this significance arise, funding the government, making sure we make good on our commitment in the Fiscal Responsibility Act to rein in spending, and then to secure the border and work out those policy issues. I think it should be concerning to all Americans. Where is our commander-in-chief? Where is our chief executive in these conversations? Except we know where his DOJ is. It's suing, it's harassing, and it's obstructing the state of Texas, picking up the slack for a federal government that has abandoned them in their time of need. Well, thank you all for coming. Yes, sir. I told you I'd get back to you. I apologize.
What if, I know you don't like hypotheticals, what if the Supreme Court rejects Texas? What's going to happen to Texas?
I'd say what's going to happen to the United States, what's going to happen to the central principle of federalism. I think it's important, and I often remind the students at the local high schools and junior highs throughout my district that the sovereign states created the federal government, not the other way around. This was the social compact, the United States Constitution. And this social compact made provision for such a circumstance that we find ourselves. And we talk about the brilliance of our founding fathers and the divine guidance to form the more perfect union. Well, this was something that was well anticipated. Maybe it was because they were skeptical and wary of a central government that might fail for reasons other than logistics to come to the aid of a state. But this was a way that states could remind the feds that the states came first and that the priority of the citizens of every state will be preeminent in a circumstance where there is an imminent danger and an invasion. So I can't imagine what happens to the country if we lose any more of the sovereign state rights that the forefathers, our founding fathers, enshrined in the Constitution, especially over one so important. This isn't a debate about the Commerce Clause. This is an issue of the safety and security of the citizens of Texas and every state. When we have, as Mr. Rouser says, a federal government that's abdicated its first and most important responsibility. Yeah. Thank you, guys. You know why I screwed that up? Because I had you and Jeff Duncan on the and they put on this Jeff because we got him.
Tom Homan with me now. Tom, let me get to this. NBC reports that President Biden is considering taking executive action to deter migrants on the southern border. In other words, Tom, he's trying to steal the border issue as an election issue from the Republicans. He's doing what the Republicans want him to do, so that what they would have done. He's stealing the issue, Tom.
Look, if he's willing to take executive action to secure the border, I'm all behind it. Yeah. I mean, we just, sir, we got 1.9 million gotaways. Who the hell are these people? Where they come from? Why they come here? You know, it's a big national security vulnerability. So look, if he wants to take executive action to secure the border, give me a call. I'll tell him what we did on the Trump administration to secure the border. I'm all about securing the border. I don't care who does it, but it needs to be secured because there's a huge national security threat.
Tell me about I think there's 160 migrants apprehended at the border since October the 1st who had gang affiliations, like the cartels, for example. You've been telling us about this for years, and now it's 160 just since October. That's extraordinary.
Look, under this administration, under the Biden administration, there has been over 14,000 convicted criminals crossing that border that were apprehended, including 124 that were convicted of homicide, murder. And that's what they captured. Again, we got 1.9 million, just shy of 2 million people who paid more to get away. Why wouldn't they pay less to turn themselves in, get processed within 24 hours, get flown to the city of their choice on a taxpayer dime, get work authorization, get a free hotel room, 3 squares a day? Who's not going to take advantage of that giveaway program? 1.9 million people said, no, I don't want the giveaway program. I want to pay more to get away. And why is that? Because they don't want to be fingerprinted. They don't want to be vetted. These are your gang members. These are your criminals. These are the ones carrying fentanyl into the United States. These are the ones trafficking, sex trafficking women and children. And God help us, these are the ones that come from a country sponsored terror to come here and do us harm.
The gangs are firmly established in American cities. They run these cities virtually. Is that correct?
Well, absolutely. You know, when I started my career, MS-13 was in 3 states.
Yep.
Right now, they're in 48 states of this nation, MS-13, the most vile gang, the most aggressive gang in the world. The most violent gang in the world is in 48 states of this nation. They're criminal cartels. The criminal cartels, Mexico, the drug cartels, they're in over 40 countries. So yeah, the criminal network has spanned worldwide, especially into the United States. Not only are they smuggling massive amounts of narcotics into the United States, now these cartels have a presence in our major cities to take over the drug distribution of our cities. So no, it's gotten a lot worse under this administration, absolutely.
Tom Homan, thanks as always for coming by today. Always appreciate it, and hope to see you again soon. Tom Homan, everyone. Thank you.
The other question they ask is, will they do it again, sir? Will they do it again? In other words, they're going to cheat again. We're not going to let them cheat. We're not going to let them cheat. Whoever thought it was even possible? When I'm back in the White House, we will mount an all-out campaign to stop the scourge of violent crime in America. We're going to stop it. Upon my inauguration, I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical, out-of-control prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. Then we will smash the gangs, the street crews, and the criminal networks that are tearing up our country. They're tearing up our country. They have criminal networks that are like businesses. They're run better than most businesses, and they're run viciously and violently. It's not NRA members who are shooting up their communities. So instead of trying to eviscerate the rights of law-abiding gun owners, I will have federal law enforcement prosecute the countless gun crimes committed by gang members, drug dealers, and convicted felons. You know, when I went to China, I got to know President Xi of China, a very strong man, a very strong man. And he said, it is so nice to meet you. I said, nice to meet you too. We started talking about different things. I said, what about drugs in China? Do you have a drug problem? No, 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 we have no drug problem. Think of it, 1.4 billion people. No, 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 we have no drug problem. I say, so how'd you pull that one off? Now, they used to have a massive with the poppy, the opium. I mean, there was a drugged out country like we're becoming. You know, we're becoming a drugged out country. I don't know if you know it or not. We have drugs at a level that's never been seen anywhere. You have to look at the statistics this year. We're becoming, China at one time, many years ago, was a drugged out country, and weak countries were taking parts of China. Other countries were taking parts that would normally never be able to happen. But years ago, they instituted the death penalty for drug dealers. And as soon as they did that, it stopped. It stopped. So I said, you have a drug problem? No, no, no. He looked like, you know, like what the hell kind of a stupid question is that? Do we? Of course we don't have a drug problem. I said, what do you attribute to quick trial? I said, quick trial. What is a quick trial? If you're a drug dealer and if you get caught selling drugs, they give you an immediate trial, immediate. And then sadly, you're executed. And so the drug dealers don't go there. They don't have a drug problem at all. They have a very meaningful death penalty. They don't have a drug deal at all. And they don't have a problem, like at all. 1.4 billion people, no problem. And frankly, you know, we organize all these committees. We did a good job. I had the First Lady on committees. I had a lot of nice people. I had a lot of socialites from New York. We had a lot of socialites from Philadelphia. They all want to be on. And many of them just love the glamour of being on a committee, but they don't know about El Chapo. They don't know about the toughness that you're talking about, the ruthlessness that you're talking about. And they do things and they have a little discussion and then start talking about when they're having dinner, where they're going. I wonder how nice it is, nice to be. They talk about restaurants. No, the only way you're solving that problem, and I don't know that our country is ready for it. Remember this, every drug dealer kills a minimum of 500 people during his or her lifetime. When you think of that, maybe you think differently. I don't know that this country is ready for it, but until you have the death penalty for drug dealers, you're never going to solve the problem. You're just kidding yourself. You're just kidding yourself. But I don't know that it's ready. But I will know when it's ready because it's getting really bad. It's gotten so bad over the last 3 years. We've never seen increases like this ever before. I'm also going to indemnify our great police officers and law enforcement officials throughout the United States to protect them from being destroyed by the radical left for taking strong action on crime. No, they get rough with some horrible criminal. They lose their job, they lose their pension, they lose their wife or a husband. They lose their family. They get destroyed because they're doing their job. We're going to indemnify them. They're told to go out and get your own lawyer. Can you imagine you're a policeman and you're dealing with rough people in many cases, and they say, go get your own lawyer. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to spend the money. No, we're going to indemnify police officers that do their job. We're going to indemnify them and precincts, and in some cases states, depending on who's running the state. We're going to work with Democrats. We're going to work with whoever. But we are giving indemnification to the police for doing their job. They're not going to be sued and destroyed or fired and destroyed. We're not going to let that happen. And to further deter these barbaric criminals and help you defend yourself and your family, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk delivering national right to carry reciprocity. You're going to have that. And if you have a meaningful Second Amendment, which you have, it's under siege. They got nowhere with me, but they got a lot of things happening with Biden. It has to go across state lines. You have to be able to go across state lines with Second Amendment privileges. Just as I did before, I will appoint rock-solid conservative originalists to the federal bench, including the United States Supreme Court. Great new justices, almost 300 judges throughout the country, big difference. I will stop the effort to deny banking and financial services to gun makers and dealers. They won't allow banks to deal with them. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency, which is a method of stealing your money, very dangerous. And we will restore free speech in America. We will have free speech. We do not have it now. We will reverse the Biden ban on natural gas exports. We will end his war on American energy, and we will unleash Pennsylvania oil and natural gas at a level never seen before. On the world stage, we will restore peace through strength. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children. And I will keep men out of women's sports. How crazy. And we will secure our elections with one-day voting, voter ID. We are going to have paper ballots, and we are going to have great, secure elections. You would have no idea how big a difference that'll make. And in conclusion, this is the most important election in the history of our country. You know, I used to say in 2016, this is the most important, and I meant it. But you look at the border, we had a border problem in 2016. I fixed it so strong that it wasn't even talked about in 2020. I kept saying to my people, I want to talk about the border. What a great job I did. They said, sir, nobody cares about the border. You fixed it. I couldn't talk about it. And yet we still got millions and millions more votes in 2020 than we did in 2020. We did much better in 2020. A lot of bad things happened. You know that. I'm not going to let that happen again. But we did much, much better. Millions and millions of more votes. We got the most votes in the history of our country for a sitting president. But now we're going to blow that number away. I've never seen, ever, such spirit. We had 2016, 2020, the level of spirit was incredible. This blows it away. Because basically you've seen how incompetent these people that are destroying our country, what they're doing. So Pennsylvania is one of the most important battleground states in the nation. You know, when I won Pennsylvania in 2016, remember they said, no, Pennsylvania won't be able to be won. Everybody said that. Hadn't been won in, I think, 36 years. And I won Pennsylvania. Again, did much better in Pennsylvania than we did in 2016, too. And I was just coming over, and some of the guys working here said, sir, you are more popular in this state right now. You're going to blow Pennsylvania away. That's what I think is going to happen. But if you live in this Commonwealth, register everyone you know and get them out to vote. We have to win in November, or we're not going to have Pennsylvania. They'll change the name. They're going to change the name of Pennsylvania. How about all over the country? They're taking the name of George Washington off high schools and other things. That's one even I thought was safe. Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, their names are now endangered. No, we are going to have to win. You're not going to have a country anymore. You're not going to have a state anymore. You're not going to have anything. We have to swamp them with so many votes that they can't rig it or they can't steal it. You know, at a certain level, they can't rig it anymore. It's too much. Pennsylvania is the Commonwealth where our founding fathers declared American independence. Such an incredible state politically. It's where they designed and wrote our glorious Constitution. It's where Pennsylvania oil came out. The first well, you know that, in the United States, Pennsylvania oil, and where strong Pennsylvania steel was poured into the backbone of our country. And now U.S. Steel was just sold to Japan. Okay, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? I wouldn't approve that deal. I wouldn't approve it. And this is the state where generations of tough, strong Pennsylvania workers, farmers, soldiers, and laborers forged the greatest nation in the history of the world. But now we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We don't like to say that. I don't like to say that. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, its willpower, and its strength. Think of that. We've lost our confidence as a nation. We are a nation that has lost its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. 3 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country, and it's hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will protect our Second Amendment. We will evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House on November 5th, 2024. That's when it begins. The great silent majority is rising like never before. And under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, everybody. God bless you all. Thank you, Pennsylvania. Thank you all. God bless you.
Cities from California to Denver to Maine are reaching a breaking point due to the significant influx of migrants. The city of Denver alone has seen an increase of over 40,000 migrants since 2022, leading to substantial costs for providing free housing, medical care, legal advice, and education. The city has already spent $42 million on these services, and the costs are projected to exceed $180 million this year. Denver's mayor, Mike Johnston, has proposed massive budget cuts to city services for legal residents to tackle the issue. However, the $9 million in federal funding allocated to the migrant issue is deemed insufficient by Mayor Johnston, who blames Republicans and former President Donald Trump for the crisis. Meanwhile, in New York City, Mayor Eric Adams is facing a federal corruption investigation overshadowing his efforts to manage the surge of migrants overwhelming the city's resources. Despite this investigation, Governor Kathy Hochul expressed confidence that Adams will remain focused on the migrant crisis. Adams has criticized both the Republican Party for refusing to do real immigration reform and the White House for not addressing the problem. He has emphasized that cities should not bear the weight of failure from Washington, D.C., and called for more federal aid. Over 57,000 migrants have arrived in New York since last spring, straining city resources. Similar echoes of concern are reverberating across liberal cities nationwide as they face budget challenges amidst the redirection of funds from essential services to accommodate the influx of migrants. To summarize, the migrant crisis is a complex issue, straining resources and budgets of cities across the United States. There are calls for more federal aid and a comprehensive immigration reform to address the problem. The crisis has also become a political battlefield, with city mayors criticizing both the White House and the Republican Party for their handling of the situation. As we continue to follow these developments, remember to subscribe for more updates and content. Thank you for joining us today.
Jonathan Lee Riches investigates, boots on the ground, Nogales, Arizona, right on the U.S.-Mexican border. Border wall is right over there. Nogales is right there. This is a migrant camp, folks, right here. It's about to be light out. Someone was here recently because there's actually two fires burning with clothes all over the place. The border wall is right over there. There's many breaches in the wall. I was going to come out here and see if I see anyone crossing in. Looks like I might have just missed Border Patrol, probably apprehending and loading people into either vans or buses. There's a lot of people that come through this area illegally. This is the Tucson sector of Arizona. Let me spin the camera around and show you what's going on. So I just drove here. This is my vehicle, and then I drove up on this, and it's clearly still burning. Look at that. Nike clothes, teddy bear, Puma. Fire's still burning, so maybe somebody was here within hours ago. And then also over here, I notice over here, this is still, looks like this one's still burning a little bit. And got another one up here, still burning. And there's trash all over the place here. Look, another one still burning here. So we got 3 fires burning. Water bottles everywhere. Now I'm going to show you over here the border wall. This probably is the spot right here where migrants wait. Migrants wait to be picked up by Border Patrol, not sent back. Now that's Nogales over there. So I am on the west side of Nogales. I'm on the west side. Look at this. Travel document. Travel document. Usually they rip up travel documents upon coming. Let me just show you the wall over here, because it's right over here. It might be hard to see because it's not light yet. But according to Google Maps, there's many breaches in the wall right over here. And the wall is it's right there. That's the wall. Matter of fact, we're going to get in our car and we're going to drive around this bend and go to the wall. But look at this. This is where apparently once they walk in, they walk up to this road and they just sit there and camp and wait to be picked up by whoever. But you can see other remnants of fires. So what I'm going to do is before I get in my car, look at that. Yeah, definitely. Look, underwear. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, folks, is I'm going to get in my car here. But before I do, and we drive over here, I just want to show you Google Maps exactly where this location is. Okay, so that's where we are, folks. Now let's go down here and see the border wall and see what we can see. There's the fire burning. See if we see anyone come in. We'll see where the wall is breached, if at all, around here. Okay, so here is the wall. Here is the wall. We're going to go down to the right, because there goes the wall. I'm going to see what's down here. Someone got through right up there. So is there a breach in the wall around here? Looks like there's a double wall. All right, so this wall looks pretty secure here. So where did those people come from? Where do those people come from? Let's follow the wall. What's this? More evidence of a camp. More evidence of a camp. All right, so look at this terrain, folks. It's pretty intense. Roads around here. Had to come in somewhere unless they just climbed over the wall. And that's a possibility too. Breach the wall in certain spots. So I'm looking around to see. But look at this. Look at this, folks. Right here. The wall is open. Look at this. Look at this, folks. Look at all the shredded stuff around here. Look at this, folks. There's Border Patrol way over there. All right, so my phone freezed up. Now here it is. Look at this. Look at this, folks. The entire sections of this wall are gone. Look at this. Documents. Documents. What are these? Passports? Documents. 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 Look at this. You just walk right in. Right here. And walk right in. Unbelievable. So this spot right here saw one little Border Patrol van, turned around, it left. Unbelievable. And look, I guess they didn't finish the wall, right? Guess they didn't finish the wall over there. All right, looks like the wall. Chunks of the wall. Drive a little bit around here. This is unbelievable, folks. So there's clear evidence that people come through, and it's most likely they come through right here. Why climb over the fence? You need to climb over the fence. You need to climb over the fence. Just go right through it where there's breaches. It's just so weird because over here, look at this. Look at this. The wall goes double, which is strange, folks. the wall goes double. Which is so strange because you have double wall and then down there, there's nothing. What in the world's going on here? It's clear people are coming in right here. We're gonna kind of wait around. I'm gonna spin the car around. And then which is strange. Let me put my seatbelt on. Yeah, wall, and then it just down in this do not flood area. On Google Maps, it looks like it was like some streams. Then there's nothing. There's nothing down here. Where's border wall? Unfinished border wall. There's nothing. Looks like some camps that were here. Let me spin. Right here. Oh wait, there's cars. There's cars. There's cars. There's cars. There's people coming across, folks. People coming across. There's people coming across. They're loading out. They're loading out. They park a little bit away and they're going to walk. Look, they're walking. Look, folks. Look. Here comes a group. Car just pulled up there and took off. Dropped them off up there and they walk. I saw headlights. Look at this, folks. Here we go. More illegal crossings. Look at this. It's a group. They're going to cross right in. They're going to cross right in. Here they come. Look at this. Cross right. Cross right in. Like kids. What in the world? We'll go follow them. We'll see what happens. They might be minors without parents. Unaccompanied minors. Look. We'll go follow. We'll see what Border Patrol does. It seems like they know exactly where they're going. Like, they're probably told, take this road up to the top where the camp is. Take the road. Unbelievable. All right, we're going to go chase them and kind of just see what's going on. We're not going to bother them. We're not going to say nothing to them. We're just going to see what's going on here and show you. We're going to follow them. Follow the process. I'm going to follow. I'm going to follow. I'll put my seatbelt on. This is unbelievable, folks. A breach in the wall and people just walk. And we saw it in real time again, folks. We're going to just kind of follow and see what happens. Look, there they are. There they are. There they are. I'm going to just lurk and see what happens. This is for educational purposes only. This is journalism, folks. Steep hill. I kind of just follow. See where they go. It seems like they know exactly where they're going. They're kind of running up the hill. Not going to say nothing to them. Now we know another breach in the wall, a vulnerability where people can just walk in, get dropped off on the other side and just walk in. Looks like she's struggling to get up the hill. It's a pretty steep hill, folks. Pretty steep hill. Let them get up a little bit. And then so far, no Border Patrol has even intercepted them. And it seems like they know exactly where they're going. Probably told to go up the top of this hill and wait for Border Patrol.
Looks like they're just waiting. Oh, they just threw something on the ground. They just threw something on the ground right there. What did they throw on the ground? They just threw something on the ground. I see the piece of paper or something, trash. Let's see. They just threw. That on the ground. A lot of times it looks like trash. A lot of times people shred documents. Look at all these clothes here. Just a path of clothes. Clothes.